Oh, hey, hey, oh, hey. Hello, everybody. My name is Mickey, and this is Mickey in the Middle, the quintessential show for Middle Americans, where we are welcoming all Middle Americans. It doesn't matter where you've been, doesn't matter where you're going, doesn't matter where you've been or where you're going, just matters that you're here right now. This is December 18th version, part two. For those of you who are just tuning in and missed it, I started my show an hour early this evening. Why? I guess I was just too excited to come on the air and get all the information out that I want to do. Now, I'm not going to talk very much about the information that I talked about at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. So it's 9 o'clock Central now. So, hey, Carolyn, hello again. Happy holidays. I'm so glad. Carolyn Greg's Ledger, first one in on the comment section. So she wins a gold medal tonight. So thank you very much. So I'm not going to talk a lot about what I talked about at 8 o'clock, but I am going to talk just a little bit about it. And then I got a couple other things on the agenda that I would like to talk to you guys about. So, uh, without further ado, what we're going to talk about is we're going to first talk about, uh, because I did this at 8, I'm just going to touch on it. The judge in New York ruled that Trump does not have immunity for the 34 felony cases that he was convicted on in New York City by Alvin Bragg and the judge Juan Merchan. So the jury found him guilty of 34 felonies. However, Trump's going to go ahead and appeal all that, and I'll get to that in just a second. But I'm not going to spend much time on that. And then the continuing resolution, there's an update since the 8 o'clock hour on the what's going on with the continuing resolution to keep Congress and the government open until March. Who knew that there would be an update? But I found an update on it, and we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about drones because New Jersey is still having problems with drones, and we're going to talk about the drones. So let's get right to it. Let's just jump on this really, really quick, and let's get to the first thing, which is going to be: did you know that President Donald Trump is already the president of the United States? Did you know that? I didn't know that President Donald Trump was already the president of the United States because you would think that Donald Trump was not going to be the president of the United States until January 20th when the inauguration happens. The inauguration happens on January 20th every single year that a president is coming on. It happens every 4 years and the year after the election. So, we had the election in 2020. And then in 2021, January 20th, 2021, the new president, Joseph Biden, was signed in and sworn in to the presidency of the United States. And on January 20th of 2025, President Donald J. Trump is going to become the 47th president of the United States if nothing happens to Joe Biden between now and then. And if the current vice president of the United States doesn't take over. Then, if that happens, then Donald J. Trump is going to be the 48th president of the United States. And all the hats that say, congratulations, 47, are going to have to be thrown away because Kamala Harris will become the first woman president in the United States history. And the reason why am I saying that? Why am I saying that? Why would you say something like, Mickey? Well, Mitch McConnell is a walking zombie. He's like 100 years old and he freezes up. He is like he's like a computer that just freezes in the middle of a speech. If you haven't seen it, it's one of the just go ahead and look up Mitch McConnell freezes on YouTube or anywhere else, and you can see Mitch McConnell, who is a very high ranking person in the Senate. He's the person that's in charge of the minority party in the Senate. And he freezes up in public. So I'm concerned for President Biden. Next thing is Nancy Pelosi fell down in Germany and broke a hip and is still in the hospital. I don't know what's going to happen with Joe. Have you seen him? I don't know whether he's going to trip and break a hip and be found incompetent and then Kamala Harris is going to have to take over as the vice president, Who knows? All I'm saying is it's not beyond the pale to think that Joe Biden could suddenly have some type of a physical ailment that takes him out of being a president, and Kamala Harris has to take over, and then Donald Trump is taking over on the 20th. But I can guarantee that it doesn't matter who's in the president's house right now. 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I just froze up there. 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue is where the White House is. And it doesn't matter who's in there right now. Donald J. Trump is now effectively the president of the United States. Why do I say that? Well, I say that because, where's my story? Because of this. Holy smokes, the government funding plan has collapsed as Trump makes new demands days before the shutdown. So, here's why that's important. Congress was going to do a continuing resolution that said that they were going to spend $100 billion in order to fund the government through March so that they can get to the omnibus budget process where Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, said, then we'll get back to what Trump wants to do. And Trump, right now, from Mar-a-Lago, who is not the president of the United States, said, this should be rejected because it's bullshit. We're only supposed to be spending $380 billion, but the Congress wants to spend $100 billion instead of the $380 billion. Oh, wait a minute. What's the numbers? I just said that wrong. I can feel myself saying it wrong. $38 billion, $380 billion. They're past $180 billion, $100 billion. I don't know. I've been saying the numbers wrong. They're spending $100 billion when they should be spending $38 billion. And the reason why that's important is because it's full of pork. They're spending $8 billion here, $7 billion there, $5 billion there. And Trump said that's BS. We have hired Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, didn't hire them. They're acting as individual unpaid consultants to the government to do DOGE, which is the Department of Government Efficiency, which is going to get waste and spending under control in the federal government. Hey, Logan Calcaterra, how you doing? Don Ledger, glad to see you here. Glad to see everybody's here. I'm so happy everybody's here. So anyway, Congress has gone crazy. They're spending $100 billion when they should be spending $38 billion. They're $42 billion in excess, $62 billion in excess spending that you're going to have to pay for and I'm going to have to pay for. Donald Trump just said, just no. So that plan is falling apart, as in this story related by the AP. You can see that the AP reported this. Government funding plan collapses as Trump makes new demands before the shutdown. Why is that important? I have it highlighted here. The stopgap measure is needed because Congress has failed to pass its annual appropriations bill to fund all various agencies of the federal government, from the Pentagon and national security apparatus to health, welfare, transportation, and other routine domestic services. Because Congress didn't do their job, you are now going to have to pay extra money because the government is funded primarily by taxes. I'm telling you right now, this really makes me mad because the stopgap measure is needed because Congress failed to pass its annual appropriations bill to fund the various agents in the federal government. Does that make you mad that Congress didn't do their job? And then right before Christmas, they're coming up to you and they didn't even ask us. They went behind closed doors and they cut all these deals to spend $62 billion more than they needed to. They went from $38 billion to pay for the federal government through March up to $100 billion. That's crazy to me because they didn't do their job in the first place. And that's crazy. Representative Anna Paulina, let me get back to this. Representative Anna Paulina, Florida, called it essentially a junk sandwich using the swear word. And then Congress is going to get $6,600 in 2025 or 3.8% pay raise. Now, I am not above Congress getting a pay raise. They have not gotten a pay raise since 2009, and everybody deserves a pay raise, even if you're in Congress, because if you haven't been to Washington, D.C., it is expensive to live up there. even if you're a congressman and even if you have a budget. But anyway, I think that everybody deserves a raise every now and then. So that's always a good thing. So anyway, my point is that Trump is now the president of the United States. So do you want to see what we're dealing with here? What are we dealing with here? This is what we're dealing with here. These folks right here are Trump's picks in order to go in front of the Senate to be confirmed. Marco Rubio, Pam Bondi, Pete Hegseth, Kristi Noem, Lori Chavez DeRaymer, Ratcliffe, Gabbard, Dr. Oz, Lee Zeldin, Elsie Stefanik, Robert F. Kennedy, Doug Byrne. All of these people have to be confirmed by the Senate. Now, I'm going to tell you something that you might not have known. On November 5th, so we had the election on November 4th, and then on November 5th, the Congressional Budget Office says, "Dear incoming president, you now have funds authorized from the Congressional Budget Office to do your transition." Trump went, "No, thank you. I'm not going to take any of your money. I'm going to do all of this on my own. I don't want the federal government having any part of our transition." Because what happened last time is because they were taking federal government's money, they had to do it transparently. So they would tell the federal government what they were going to do, who they were going to nominate, who they were going to interview, all of this stuff. And before they could get any word in edgewise, it was leaked to the press, and it was leaked all the way across the United States of America so that the people that were in opposition to Trump could trash his nominees. Have you noticed that this did not happen this year? Have you noticed that all of Trump's nominees are being nominated without any pushback from his opposition party? You want to know why? Because they never see it coming. They didn't see Elon Musk or Vivek Swamy. They didn't see Pete Hegseth. They didn't see Stefanik. They didn't see Burgum. They didn't see Bissett. They didn't see anybody coming. They can complain about it, but because they didn't see it coming, and then he flooded the market with them. All of these folks that you're seeing right here, all of these folks have to go through Senate confirmation. Did you know that he's already nominated all of these folks to get in there? These are the folks that Senate confirmation is not required. The chief of staff, vice president, chief of staff, all of these people, they're already helping Trump run the government. And they've said what is good, what is bad. And look at it, government officials, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Those are two of my heroes right there. Why? Because they made billions of dollars in America. All these other people, how can you complain about the president? How can you complain about President Trump flooding the zone with stuff that you didn't see? It's too much for the Democrats to handle, so they can't complain because they can't picture something happening without them being notified. So President Trump has flooded the zone. That's what you call it in football, where you put too many receivers against too few defensive backs, and he's flooded the zone with them so they cannot keep up because Trump did not take any money from the federal government to do his transition. As a result of that, these folks are advising Trump, and Trump is then pushing that information out to all of his advisors and to every single congressperson and to every single person in the Senate and all of the agencies that are currently up there. And they're going, holy smokes, this guy flooded the zone. He's taken charge, and he's not even in the White House yet. If we don't play ball, we're going to get absolutely smoked. Here's the crazy thing about it. Where's Mike? Where's Mike? Do I have Mike? All right, there you go. This right here is Mike Johnson. This right here. You see the surprised look on his face? Do you want to know why he's got a surprised look on his face? Because Trump just smoked him. Right after the election, that by the way, is Mike Johnson. He's a representative from the state of Louisiana. Right after the election, and he's a Speaker of the House. Right after the election, he went down to Mar-a-Lago to make nice with Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, Mike Johnson, Elon Musk, and Vivek Ramaswamy are all on the same texting trail. So if somebody can text one person in the group, you can text one person in the group and it goes to everybody in the group. They're on that. Well, Mike Johnson went up and did what Mike Johnson did. He's from Louisiana, and I have to apologize for him because he has been getting the Democrats on board to pass all the stuff that he wants because the Republicans are not passing the stuff that Mike Johnson wants, like this $100 billion continuing resolution to fund the government through March. What's Donald Trump's solution to this? Donald Trump's solution is raise the debt ceiling without any programs. Just raise the amount of debt ceiling that we can have. Now, we've been raising the debt ceiling year after year after year after year to fit all of the Biden shit in there, right? They did like $18 trillion worth of raising the federal ceiling, the debt ceiling in the United States of America. I wonder how much that is. How much has the debt ceiling been raised since 2020?
Okay, I found this on the web for how much is the debt ceiling being raised since 2020.
Well, that didn't help much. It didn't help. So anyway, if somebody can tell me how much the debt ceiling has been raised since 2020, it's been a lot because right now we are, what are we, $40 trillion in debt? I mean, it's outrageous how much money we owe people. And I know that I normally go over that every single, but the simple fact of the matter is that Johnson did something that Trump didn't like. So Trump put it out a tweet. It said, this needs to be rejected out of hand because Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and all of his advisors said this is bad policy. We're getting off to the wrong foot. Mike Johnson said, hey, we need to do this. And then in March, we'll get in line with Trump stuff. And he's getting hammered for it. So Trump is out. So anyway, Trump is now the president of the United States. Second thing that Trump did, Trump said to Hamas, if you don't get your shit together and release the American hostages that are over there, then they're going to be hell to pay. I think that's a quote. Donald Trump said, if you don't release the American hostages in Gaza, there's going to be hell to pay. And guess what? The Palestinian, the Hamas that operates out of the Gaza Strip is now in negotiations with Israel to have a ceasefire and to release the hostages. Is that good news or what? Because Trump said it better be fixed by the time I become president of the United States. Do you think the President Biden is doing anything about what's going on in Israel and the Gaza Strip right now? No, they're not. They're not doing the current administration is not doing anything to solve the problem as Israel. And we have American hostages over there, and we know who has them. The Gaza Strip is not that big. I would probably say that we probably know exactly where they are because from everything I've seen from our intelligence services, if we take our intelligence services and we focus on a very, very small area, then we have the ability to completely, we can listen to all the conversations. They used to put big balloons up in Afghanistan and Iraq, and they would just have ears on them, and they would listen to what shepherds in the fields were saying, and they could hear what was going on in huts. They can hear what's going on in houses. They can hear what's going on in an apartment building by just taking those big ears and focusing it in. They can hear conversations from like miles away. Yeah, we have the ability to do that. I hate to tell you that. We have the ability to read a license plate from space. And you don't think we have the ability to turn ears on and listen to every single conversation that's in Gaza? Of course we do. Heck yeah. So let's see. Christopher Cap says, shut it down, pass a budget. Yes, shut it down, pass a budget. That's all you got to do. Temporarily raise the debt ceiling so that we can get the continuing resolution problem solved, so the government can spend more money without having all of these other things added in. And the next thing you know. So anyway, Trump is now the president of the United States because the Biden administration isn't doing anything. They have become true lame ducks. Donald Trump is now the president of the United States. All right. That's all I got to say about Trump tonight. So, what are we else going on here? So, The judge. Oh, so really, really quick on the judge in New York. The judge said that Trump does not have immunity. The rule is that if you act as the president of the United States and you're acting in your capacity as president, you would have immunity. But the judge found that Trump was not acting in his capacity as president of the United States, so he does not have immunity. I called this as soon as it was appealed, and the Supreme Court came down and said, "Hey, we're going to give Trump we're going to send this back down to the lower court, and the court is going to have to determine whether he's acting in his capacity as a president or his capacity as a private citizen." When Trump paid off the porn star, he was acting in a private citizen capacity, which means that he can be found guilty at the state level. Now they will appeal this again on different reasons, but that's the way that the law works. Don Ledger says, "Do they really know about the drones?" Yeah, we know about the drones. So I said this a couple of weeks ago. I said we know what the drones are. We know what the drones are. I said that a couple of weeks ago. Now, let me show you something. This is my drone. I know what I'm talking about. I fly this little bad boy all the time. I get on my little phone. I open up the app. I check the airspace. I activate my drone, and then I can fly it as a non licensed drone pilot up to 400 feet. And this drone right here can go up to a mile in any direction. It's line of sight. You're supposed to be able to keep your eye on it. And I'm going to tell you right now, FAA officials, if you're watching, I always have my eyes on my drone, and it's always below 400 feet. So you get it. All right. So let me tell you about drones. Let me tell you about drones. They say that these drones are bigger. It's true. The drones are bigger. Why are drones getting bigger? The reason is because drones are not always this size. This is a tiny drone. This is called a Whoopty. This is a Whoopty drone. It's an Avata. This is the first generation Avata where I put on goggles and I get to go and fly this around. I can fly it around my house. I can fly it outside. I can fly it around the neighborhood. I can take it different places I can fly around. The bigger drones, and I say bigger drones, I'm talking about anything that's larger than the size of my desk right here, which is approximately 4 feet long and about 3 feet wide. Anything that's larger than that is going to pop up on radar if it's moving. It's called a Doppler effect. We have radar systems that cover the entire United States of America. If you're flying over the Grand Canyon, they can see you over the Grand Canyon. I was flying in the Grand Canyon a few years ago. And when I say in the Grand Canyon, I'm not saying I was operating illegally, but I might have been with a pilot that was operating illegally. And he contacted FAA and he said, "Hey, look here, we're going to go VFR, which is visual flight rules, and we're going to fly around the canyon." Anyway, we might have dipped into the canyon and we might have swooped down through the canyon. And they lost us on radar. But that was because we were below the radar coverage, but we were in the middle of nowhere by the Grand Canyon. When we popped up, they immediately saw us again in my C-130. Now, C-130 is a big airplane, but here's the thing is, anything that's big and moving, we know about it. If it is large enough that you have propellers on it, the propellers also have a signature that the FAA and other radar installations that are in the United States can see. That means we know where all of these things are. With that being said, the question is like they're acting suspiciously. What the hell does that mean? It doesn't mean that they're acting suspiciously. It just means that people are flying drones. Last year, the FAA came up with some rules that said under certain conditions, you can fly drones at night. And that's what people do. Right now, it's Christmas time. Everybody put up their lights. So everybody that can fly a drone is now flying drones over houses. They don't think that they are the one that's being problem. You say, "Well, those are the little drones." And we're talking about big drones. Well, guess what? Commercial companies, the police departments, different corporations, different entities in the United States are all using bigger drones. Why? Because drones have a vertical takeoff and landing thing that they do. The amount of power it takes to take off one of these drones vertically is huge. That's why we don't do it with airplanes. Airplanes don't take off vertically because it takes too much power to get them off the ground. So we have to trick. Who's that? Jeff LeMay. Hold on just a second. Jeff, if you're watching, I'll talk to you in just a second. So, anyway, large drones have to have enough power, which means that they have to have enough battery power in order to take off. And batteries are very, very heavy. So, because batteries are heavy, now you have the ability to take these doggone things off, and they have to have big propellers. Because they have big propellers, that means we can track them. So, what did the FAA say about drones? Here's what they said about drones. First of all, they said right up here, they do not pose a threat to public and represent lawful, legal, commercial, hobbyist drones, even law enforcement drones. I would remind people that there are a million drones that fly over the skies in the United States routinely. Thousands and thousands have registered with the FAA, and a lot of them do really good work for the public, safety, and for public good, such as law enforcement drones, commercial drones. To date, there is no sense, no indication that there's a national security or public safety risk at this time. He continued, after days and days and a forensic work analysis detection and work and looking at the tips that came in, our assessment is that these drones represent lawful, legal, commercial, hobbyist drones, even law enforcement drones. And I, because I've been in the aviation business my entire life, believe them. I'm telling you right now, this is not that big of a deal. The second thing is, how many people have ever looked up at night? You see airplanes, especially in New Jersey. Holy smokes, the number of airplanes that are flying into JFK and LaGuardia or going into Logan or flying low over New Jersey, the number of airplanes is astounding. But you don't notice it until you look up, because before this, they had just blended into the sky and they're just a normal operation. So nobody looked up before. And then somebody goes, oh my gosh, it's an attack of the drones. And then some stupid congressman goes, well, Iran has parked the ship off the East Coast. He didn't know that. He didn't know. Why would a congressman ever? Well, a good friend of mine who talked to a dude who knew somebody in a thing did a thing. Here's the thing. That's all hogwash. It's all malarkey. We know everything that's flying. If you don't think that the Department of Defense knows how to be able to identify a threat and be able to take care of that threat, you've got another thing coming. Now, I used to not think that, but it is absolutely amazing the technology that we have to take out drones, to take out threats. Have these drones done anything? Or are they just looking? Or are they just operating in the realm in which they operate? I'm telling you right now, it's not a big deal. And you're going to see more and more of these. The second thing about this is, leave the drones alone. We don't need the federal government getting into this. This is like private aviation. If you can afford an airplane, you need to be able to afford an airplane. You don't have to have, in certain circumstances, you do not have to have a license to fly an airplane. Now, there's FAA limits the size, the scope, the amount of gas that they can carry, how heavy they are, but you can go fly airplanes without a license in the United States of America. You don't even have to register these airplanes in the United States of America. The reason you don't is because they can be labeled as experimental aircraft. How do I know this? Because I go to Oshkosh every couple of years, and they have an experimental Oshkosh has an organization. I don't even know who they are. The EEA, the EAA, Experimental Aircraft Association, of which I am a member, but I forgot. The EAA, they have experimental aircraft flying at Oshkosh, and 20,000 airplanes show up to Oshkosh every single year, and some of them are registered, and some of them are not, and some of them are licensed pilots, and some of them are not. And the FAA controls all of that stuff that's going on. I do not want the FAA messing with the ability for me to not have a license and to be able to fly an unlicensed airplane in the United States of America. It happens every single day. Thousands of flights happen every single day by unlicensed pilots in unregistered airplanes. This is a registered drone. But the FAA also has regulations for unregistered zones. Now, you can't fly near an airport and you can't fly in a military operating area that's active. You can't fly in different areas. You can't fly over populations. You can't do that, right? But we don't want the FAA getting in here and saying Americans can't be free. But right now, everybody's going, oh, the drones, oh, the drones. And they have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. The drones are not a problem. It's people's imaginations what the problem is. The people are trying to ruin freedom by being chicken shit scaredy cats. And we don't need that. We don't need the government imposing more rules than we currently have, because that's what freedom is about. Freedom is about the government is not the boss of you. And you shouldn't want the government to be the boss of somebody else unless what they're doing is a detriment to society. But Billy Bob with the drone is not being a detriment to society. The FAA is trying to make, I'm not going to tell you who I know who was working on this, but I have somebody that's very, very close to me that's working on this. How do you think we're going to get to flying cars? Yeah, right now you got to register your car and you have to have a license. But you can drive your damn car anywhere that you want. What's going to happen when these drones turn into self-driving cars that you can pick up and you can go to the mall? What's going to happen? You're not going to be able to do that because the government is going to legislate them out of existence before they even get started. Because you people that are up there in New Jersey and are posting all this bullshit, it's like Bigfoot. I don't know what I'm looking at, but it's got to be bad because I don't understand it. You're going to legislate drones right out of existence, and you're going to also legislate your self-driving car, your sky car, your flying car out of existence because you panicked before you knew what the hell was going on. So our federal government, who I don't trust them very much, but I know enough about this subject to say that we know what's going on up there enough to understand that they're not dangerous. They're tracking all of these things. Here is the last thing I got to say about this. Kirby said, we've still got 100 or so tips that we're still looking into triangulate of the 5,000 or so tips and sighting that the FBI looked at. They've narrowed it down to about 100 that still have to check in that we haven't been able to rule out. As more tips come in, I think the number could go up. We'll just kind of like see where we are. The government knows everything is flying. They might even know about my little bitty teeny weeny drone that doesn't fly over 500, that doesn't fly over 400 feet and doesn't go out of my vision. So with that being said, that's it for Mickey in the Middle. I will not be here next week because it's going to be Christmas, and I will not be here on New Year's week because, hey, I'm going to be partying like it's 2025, 1999. So without further ado, I'd like to thank you. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holiday, a great New Year. I hope you have a blessed 2025. And without further ado, this has been Mickey in the Middle, the quintessential show for Middle Americans where all Middle Americans are welcome. You guys have a great night. Good luck. God bless. Love you. See ya.